as a writer, I don't know if I could do the ghostwriting that you guys do because a an outline that I have written sucks the life out of it. But I did actually do outlines that my son wrote when we did the trilogy. So maybe it is a little different.
I
Anyway.
think it's because the story isn't your own.
Hmm.
You appreciate the information that they give you to work from. You're not just having to come up with everything on your own. Even though there's a little less freedom involved, you've got a lot more direction, which can make it a little easier to work with.
Yes. Yes.
Anita there right at the start, as always. Hey, Anita.
Hi, Anita.
I need to.
All right. Well, welcome everyone to another episode of Spilling Ink. We're the talk show that takes you behind the book to meet the authors and professionals in the publishing industry. As always, I am Katie Solitis and my co-host Jane. How we doing?
We're doing good.
Yeah, I love the hair.
I kind of, went a little bit of rebel here.
I love it. It looks good.
Thank you.
Nice and fresh for spring.
Yes, yes. I'm hoping I can still put it up for summer.
Well, that's the trick. You gotta cut it so that you can put it in the ponytail. Don't cut it any shorter.
I said not to worry about it.
Okay. All right. Well, it looks good. It looks good.
Thank you.
And we've got a new to us author on Spilling Ink, David Green. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I've also cut my hair for the
and it looks fabulous.
Yes, I also hope to be able to put it up for summer.
That's good.
At least we've all got goals, right?
I was like, you and my husband would get along really good. He's going to probably come around the corner now.
Probably. We'll see him in the background.
Yes.
So, David, did I understand correctly? You just had a new release?
I did. I did, yes. So, yeah, I have two series. I have an epic fantasy series, which is, I have them handy, which is this one. That's the three of them so far.
Oh,
this
is epic.
This is the new one, this one. Yes. That's the one. So they get quite a bit bigger. So this is the new one that's coming up Beyond Some of the Seas. And these are, and there's a prequel short story as well. So this is epic fantasy, which is fun. And then I have an urban fantasy as well.
Ooh, hold on, let me get you.
Ooh.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah, so this is like Dresden meets Supernatural, pretty much. And the epic fantasy is, there's lots of influences in there, and there's a lot of like new things in it as well. There's there's quite a lot of like there's a really strong female characters in it, and there's autistic characters, and there's like all this other things in it as well. But it's mainly influenced by a video game called Dragon Age, which I loved when I was which I was in my early 20s. And it's really funny because I get because lots of the way that fantasy stories are, people are always like, this is a little bit like this, you must really like this, you must really like this. And I do really like Lord of the Rings and Wheel of Time, but no one ever picks up on the Dragon Age thing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That was the main influence on it. Although there's no dragons in the books. That's the only thing that's different.
It's always fun to see where the inspiration comes from, the different stories.
Yeah.
And I like the comps on the other one, the Dresden Files and Supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That sounds like it's a really interesting one.
Yeah, it's good, and unlike Harry Dresden, my guy Nick Holleran isn't really misogynistic, so there's that for it. So it's that's what sets it apart a little bit. But I do like the Dresden Files quite a lot. But I hadn't read them before I wrote this, and then I'll watch Supernatural, and it was other people actually were saying you must like Supernatural and Dresden Files, and I was like, I should check them out, I guess. And I watched them, and I was like, I do like them.
Yeah,
I enjoyed the Dresden Files. That was a favorite of mine. I did not make it through Supernatural, though.
I'm a 15-year, every single episode Supernatural freak. So anything that's compared to it, I'm like, ooh, I have to get that.
I finished watching it just before Christmas. So for the first one, so I was thinking I might rewatch it this year, but it's like it is 15 series, but
that's a lot. That's
I'm watching it while I'm at row. So as I'm doing my rowing, I started watching that over.
Yeah.
I was gonna watch Smallville again, but I couldn't find where it streams for free. I'm like, and Netflix is showing Supernatural, so I'm like, oh, I'll just watch this over again. Of course, I have all the DVDs for both shows, but
So then you can watch it whenever you want to.
yeah, but it's not in front of the rower.
Isn't it funny how you fall into a routine and you have to do it that way?
Yeah, I'm like, it would be nice if the rower was in here in front of the big screen.
Well, could you put a TV in the area where the rower is?
It's a bedroom, and there's really not a place for it. It's one of our guest rooms, but yes. Now we got a rower recently, and I'm enjoying it, but I'm in pain a lot because it's muscles I haven't been working out for a long time.
I understand that feeling.
But yeah, so I'm rewatching Supernatural because it's been a while since I've seen the early episodes. I'm like, oh, cool.
Last time we talked about Supernatural, I think, what did I make it to season 2 before I was like, all right, when does it get good? And everybody got mad at me for it.
well, the first season was sort of like campy horror.
Yeah.
And I kind of like campy horror. So, and then it started to get more and more about the brothers.
Yes.
So you saw the relationship and you saw that building and yeah. Yes, Dean is hot as fuck.
See, again, I'm going to get in trouble for not liking Supernatural. When should I start it or restart it? Where does it really start to get good? Maybe I'll try it.
Like season 2, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, about halfway through season 2.
Yeah, and then 3, 4, and 5 are really, really solid.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. 3 was when 3 when Castiel came?
4, I think, actually, wasn't it?
Okay, I'm like, oh my god, that's bad. I don't know this.
I think I've seen it more recently than you have. I think that's why. Yeah, it's kind of because it's kind of I think it's 4. That's when it's the first episode of 4, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, because when he comes in, that's when the show changed into have to watch for me. I was watching it before because it was like but then angels come into play. It's like wow.
Like a bit in 5 and 6, but you need that slowdown before the big explosions. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I will give it another shot. I think I've got Picard's ending, Mandalorian's ending soon, so I should have some free time in my limited TV watching schedule. Who would you have play Nick Holleran?
Ryan Gosling or Chris Pine, actually.
Ooh.
Chris Pine would be very good, actually.
He's got good charisma.
Yeah. He does, yeah. And Ryan Gosling's a bit like kind of more imposing, I suppose, whereas like Chris Pine is quite a tall guy as well, but he's kind of more spindly, I think so. Yeah, he's got that kind of got that world weariness to him as well, a little bit. And he was great in Dungeons and Dragons, like that.
I didn't see that. Oh,
I have to see that as well. My son said it was fantastic.
I've heard the same thing. I need to go see it. We did the Mario movie because
kids.
Hunter. He's been a Mario fan since birth. There was no way we were missing that movie. And it was surprisingly good. Like I went into it, the trailers did not sell the movie at all. And I went into it thinking, okay, it's a kid's movie. I'll just get through it. Laughing the whole time. My oldest daughter and her fiance went with us. Her fiance's dad and younger sister went with us. And then I had my 2 kids. Everybody was cracking up the whole time. Yeah. Everybody enjoyed it.
Yeah, I took my son loves going to the cinema, so we went to watch Dungeons and Dragons and Mario, and he liked them both, but he said Mario was the greatest movie of all time. So
yeah, a good D&D movie. That's a surprise because the last one we got was just weird.
Yeah, it was awful. Yeah, it was. No, it was really good. It was really good fun. It's just like I know Nikki plays D&D, and it gets that. It just does that. Like it really captures the kind of like chaotic feeling of D&D, and then the kind of found family side of it as well. So it was really good. Yeah, it was funny. It was really funny. I liked it a lot. So yeah, Chris Pine would be yeah, he'd be a good. It'd have to happen pretty soon though, because he's in his mid-40s now, so we'd have to get it made soon. So that's I'll send him an email.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Hollywood men seem to like age slower than anybody else.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
how old is
some of them.
Keanu Reeves?
He's 57, I think now.
And
I thought he was
doesn't look it.
Well, something I think about quite a lot, and because he's the same age as my dad, is Viggo Mortensen. So he is 2 years older than Ian McKellen was when Ian McKellen played Gandalf.
Oh wow!
Yeah, because he's 60.
Good.
He's 64 this year. It's the same age as my dad.
Surprising.
I always think about it, and then when I was with me and my son started watching Lord of the Rings movies, and I was like, I was in college when they came out and all this, and I was like, oh, everyone looks so young, and I was like, but also everyone is so old now.
No, don't want to be reminded of age.
No, that's the thing about watching movies that you really used to like. It's like it's still kind of fresh in your mind. That it's like even Supernatural, because that came out in 2005, wasn't it? And it's nearly 20 years old. Like
And my son watched it with me, and he
really?
was 5. I let my 5-year-old watch it with me.
Oh,
that's okay. They have to learn about demons at some point.
Good family fun.
When we met Jeffrey Dean Morgan at a place, and we were getting his signature, Billy goes, "I've been watching you, since I was like 5 years old." And I looked at him. I said, "Not my finest moment as a mom, but."
They've all got to learn about crossroad demons and vampires and werewolves at some point.
Well, that's where he got the idea for his story of Death Chronicles. So yep. Yes.
That is true, but also it is when like your hero growing up, which was Aragorn for me, is the same age as your dad. It's kind of like, yeah.
I'm not that much younger than your father.
So that's the thing as well. Like, I kind of consider my dad as not being all that old anymore, because like I'm 40 now. So it's like I think, well, he's 64 this year. He's not too old. He's more or less just over middle age.
Right. Yeah. My dad just turned 84, 85, something like that. Yeah.
So it's the same age, almost the same age as Ian McKellen. So there you go. You've got the difference.
There you go. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect. There you go. I like that.
That's true.
Yeah, with my white hair now, I look like I'm a little older, but
in the light, you can't tell it's white. It's just it looks more platinum with gold highlights.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have no highlights anymore.
Just smile and nod.
But I was told I have beautiful hair, so I'm like really cool with that.
Yeah. We always had the nice little bounce to your hair. It always looks nice.
Well, thank you.
You retained the all the softness and everything. You just went a different color. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Me, I will stick to my dyeing my hair because I refuse to look at the grays.
I just said to hell with it.
I'm not ready to embrace it yet.
See,
there you go. Your hair is gorgeous.
I have no wisdom.
So let's talk about writing. What's everybody working on right now?
I am actually working on a Valkyrie story. I finally sat my butt down and said, you got to do that, because I'm waiting for feedback on the last book that I got lambasted on at the beginning.
Ooh, them's fighting words.
Yeah, that's all right. That's okay. I needed it. I needed to be hit upside the head. And I was.
Somehow I don't see her being that mean that she would hit you upside the head. She might pull a cattle prod out on you.
No, but she was disappointed in me.
That's the worst. That's the worst.
Oh, you have to put that up. No, the one above that. Yep.
Oh wow.
So true.
That sounds about right.
You have to kill some characters. That's what they exist for.
Yes. I've killed a lot of characters, but I
be
brought them back to life
tormented.
too.
Yeah, and then kill them
True.
again.
Like Supernatural. They don't really die.
Bring them back to life and then kill them again.
Yeah.
Does that really make you evil though? If you just resurrect them?
Just to do it again? I don't know. Maybe I am evil.
It's kind of teaching. It's just kind of teaching them a lesson. They didn't think in the last time.
Putting them in timeout for a little bit.
Right. That's right.
How about you, David? What are you working on right now?
I'm working on the last in my epic fantasy series, so it's out in September. So
wow. That's not long.
No, it's not long. And I have a book launch booked for a convention in September called FantasyCon. So
awesome.
It has to be finished. So, but I kind of want it to be finished as well. I'm ready for it to be done, and so I can move on with my life. Tonight.
Last of the series for good. Not going to leave any threads open for later.
No, there is. Yeah, there is going to be, because I'm kind of one of these people that's kind of like, if you've created like a massive big world, there should be other stories told in it, because the world should be robust enough that it's like, look, there's other things that can happen, like, in the past or in the future, or just like at the same time, just somewhere else, Just because that story is finished doesn't mean that like the world is finished, unless you literally destroy the entire world, which, you could probably do. But then they did that in Planet of the Apes too, and then they still made 4 sequels, so, what...
Well, I've noticed that a lot lately. It's what is the term? IP burnout, where companies get a hold of a massive IP and just milk it dry.
Yeah.
And so you kind of get to the point where like, all right, are we done yet? I need to take a break from this.
Yeah. It's one of those things. It's like, I think it depends on what it is, because like sometimes like with Star Wars we were talking about before, like with that, I think they're not sure if it's the world that people like or the characters, so they keep trying to move away from the characters that we've all known for decades, and then they're like, but then the characters are coming back that you all knew and loved, they're back again, and then they move away for a little bit, and then they go like, but then here's Luke Skywalker again. It's like, okay, just make a decision. Just even
butchering them though when they bring them back. Like they take the character. Luke Skywalker is a great example. Mm-hmm. They take a character who ended on a high note. We loved him. He was a hero. The next time we see him, he is the complete opposite of what we've seen. And there's like a cognitive dissonance that happens because we didn't see the transformation. So now it's like, well, this isn't my Luke Skywalker. I don't know who this one is, because it's nothing like we remembered. And they're not factoring that in when they bring characters in.
Yeah.
And they end up telling a story that doesn't resonate because it's not showing us the transformation, the growth, the grace. They're just kind of jumping ahead to it.
Yeah, because I quite like old Luke Skywalker. I like him being old and grumpy, and I like his ending in Last Jedi. But I also agree that like it's like we need to see kind of what happened. And I actually think like they did Han Solo worse, because like when Return of the Jedi finishes, like him and Leia are going to get married, and like he's not a smuggler anymore, and he's like a hero, and then like he's just like a terrible dad. Yep. That's like gone back to like just like bumming around the galaxy with his dog, and like it's like why have you done this to Han Solo? Like, and then they kill him, and it's like, okay, great, you're just a terrible.
Because they brought him back so they could.
Yeah.
And there too, you didn't get that emotional connection because we didn't see Han being a screwed up dad. Right. We get the moment, father and son trying to have this emotional moment, but we don't connect to it because we have no reason to. We don't see them as a father-son. We just see them as two people trying to have the scene in front of us.
So they took a point in time that was later that didn't give you any context.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like they're going back now, like, and trying to like fill in the gaps and stuff, which will be. It is his dog. It's his dog.
It's his buddy.
It's his giant dog.
Friend.
It is based on George Lucas's dog, though, isn't he, Chewbacca? He was called Inda, his dog. He used to drive around in a like a little truck with his dog in the front seat with him.
Aww.
Yeah. So it's one of those things. Like, so I think like with this one, like I think there is other stories to tell in the world, but it will be a little while before it gets to them. But it won't be kind of like 30 years later, here's all the same characters again that like try and like what they did with the Star Wars films, where it's like, you don't need to know any of this stuff, but also you do need to know all of this stuff because otherwise where they are in their lives won't make any sense anymore.
The TV shows too, like I was very disappointed in what they did with Obi-Wan, another beloved character, and the way that they played him out through that show made no sense from what we knew of the character and what we knew of the character in the future as well. So it was, again, that disconnect where you're throwing him into this role and we don't understand why he's doing what he's doing. His decisions just don't seem to make sense.
Yeah, and the aging process in Tatooine, like he's literally going from Hugh McGregor to Alec Guinness in like 8 years. After that, it's like, wow.
Well, that's a rough life.
It is tough living in the desert.
So what happened after the Obi-Wan series? It must have been really tough after that.
We really are in the mushroom. Oh my goodness. The chat is fun tonight.
Yes, it is.
But I mean, that's important. And as writers, we can understand, that as we're crafting our stories, we've got to make sure we're giving the proper character development. We're showing the growth. We're showing the arc and not just jumping ahead to random points.
Yeah. Where you start a story matters.
Yeah.
As we found out.
As you have found out this week.
Yes. Yeah, it makes a difference. It can change the whole perception of the main character too.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Yeah. And like flashbacks are important as well. Like if you want to do something where time has passed, like it's also choosing the right flashbacks to do and giving the right kind of information and when to do it. But yeah, it's been an interesting one because I kind of just think that, and I think they're doing that now with some of the movies that they've announced, where it's like they're going to do one that's set like 25,000 years before like the first ever Jedi. I think that's the way to do it because like, well, just go and tell a story in the world because people are interested in it. And I think like having people that are connected to the Skywalkers and stuff, it's just like a load of baggage that you just don't need at this point.
Yeah, and Star Wars actually does its best, modern Star Wars, when it's telling a story not connected to the characters that we love.
Yeah.
When it branches out on its own and stays within the world, it's really good. They come up with some really creative stuff. It's when they try and like tie everything in, they spend so much time getting those threads to reach out and touch each other that the story fails. It's like how do we bring this back to the Skywalkers? It's like let's just leave them alone. They're fine. They're all dead now. It's good. Yeah, there were more Jedis out there than Skywalkers, guys, for thousands of years. We were still talking about mushrooms now.
I don't know where mushrooms came.
I love mushrooms.
It kind of went sideways in the chat. But
they got their own conversation going on.
Yes. And no, we didn't bring up mushrooms.
No, mushrooms are nice though.
Yeah, nice. But earlier she was talking about stuff that actually sounded like a little bit of the Last of Us. Saying how, but she didn't say The Last of Us in the chat. And I'm like, oh, okay,
That's a series I'm too chicken to start because the zombie connection.
It's not bad.
That's what everyone says.
The zombies aren't bad. No, it's not the Walking Dead zombies that are just bloody and gross.
No, these are just growing mushrooms.
Yeah,
big mushrooms. Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't get scared from a lot of monsters. Like I can watch horror movies that don't bother me, but zombies, those freak me out. That's my one line. Zombies just freak me the hell out.
Yeah, I have to write my zombie series. my short story went over well.
Good.
That was the prequel that I wrote to it. But yeah, I've got that. I have so many on tap.
So, David, you said you've got a release in September.
Mhm.
Are you shooting for, because I saw those books were getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Are you shooting for a specific word count, or you just, the story ends when the story ends?
Yeah, I'm really bad at judging like how big. I used to be really good at it, but now I've gone terrible at it. So, so the second one, I was thinking this one. I was thinking this will be about 80,000 words, and it ended up being about 140,000. And I was like, well, that's fine. And then this one, I was like, well, this one will be about 120,000. I'll go for it. And this is 250,000.
Oh,
So
wow.
I doubled it. And this book wasn't even supposed to exist. This was supposed to be a trilogy. And when I was writing the second one, I was like, I have too much story to tell. I need an extra book. I've kind of thought, well, because it's funny because like it's the first time I'm writing a final book in a series under my name, because obviously I do ghostwriting, so I've written last books before. But I was kind of like worrying a little bit because I was like, I think I'm running out of story to tell. I'm like, well, that's the way it should be because it's the last book. So like I should be running out of story to tell, because it's like, it's just payoff after a certain point in a final book. So yeah, I think I don't think it'll be as big as the third one, but it'll be bigger than the second one. I think I'm kind of thinking around 180,000 words.
That's still a pretty beefy book.
That's a hefty book.
Yeah.
It's standard epic fantasy.
True.
Yeah.
100,000. That's usually the
and
target.
your covers are awesome, by the way.
Yeah, they're nice. Yeah, they're nice. The one for the next one is really good, which is not finished yet.
Is that this set here?
Yes.
Yes, that's those ones. So the one for the last book we've kind of got it done as well, but it's not completely ready yet. So I think the third one is
cover reveal.
Yeah. I do have it somewhere. I can show it to you. I can send it to you. I'll just email it over to you.
Yeah.
I
love it.
But yeah, I really like the third one. It's really good.
Yes.
That's such beautiful covers.
Yeah.
And I'm always a fan of, strong female. I like that. Those are good stories.
Yeah, that's the good thing. And I mean, with the first one as well, like one of the things that I kind of wanted to do with it was because I'm a big fantasy fan, but it's always usually people with daddy issues, and stuff like that. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna have someone with mummy issues in this one. So like the main kind of like relationship in the book is between the character on the front cover, who's called Colleen, and her mother, and they're like estranged from each other.
I'll bring that back
after a decision that was made previously, which is kind of like integral to the book. So I kind of just wanted to do that because like it's always like, usually when you have like women characters in fantasy, especially if they're written by men, it's usually they're very kind of written in a very specific kind of way. And I kind of didn't want to do that, so I tried my hardest.
Good.
And how have the reviews been on the books, or do you not read reviews? I know some authors won't look at the reviews.
Yeah, I read reviews. They've been pretty good. Might just be me being a little bit humble, but they've been quite good. I do read them because I find like it's. I think you can always find something good from a review, like and even if it's just like like the book, that's always great to know. But it's good when you get some ones that are like this didn't quite work for me or whatever. And, you can sometimes read it and go, that's fine, it's just an opinion. But sometimes if it's just the same thing crops up a few times, you can be like, well, okay, this didn't quite land the way that I wanted it to do. Or I really like collaborating. Like I have alpha and beta readers in quite early with my stuff because I just like that whole kind of process of seeing what's working and what isn't. So I do read them. It's sometimes when you get like one that isn't quite a great review, it's kind of the same with editing notes. You kind of have to just look at it and then just kind of walk away and
go, okay.
Yeah, let it sink in for a minute.
Yeah,
You like
yeah.
that they don't hate you. They're just
Mhm.
Right, yeah, exactly. Like you just want to get the best book
Yes.
possible each time, you know.
Yes. And you know, while I'm joking about, you know, my beta reader, Rebecca, giving me a hard time about the beginning of the last book, she had very good points.
Right.
And as I said, I'm writing in a world that's not mine. So I'm writing to rules. So it's like I had to step back and go, okay, how can I make this better without changing the world's rules? Ooh,
whoa,
that
that
is
is pretty.
awesome. Oh my God, I love that.
Oh, I love the color tones you got in these covers.
Yes,
They're
Yeah.
muted, but they're just so full of depth.
yes.
Oh, I
Yeah,
love
so
that.
I'm just gonna have a few little tweaks to it, but it's mostly kind of where I want it to be.
That
But yeah,
Eternity's Gate.
That's
Ooh,
gorgeous.
I
That
love the
is
title.
really
Yes.
gorgeous.
Okay, you just squirreled whatever I was saying. You showed me a pretty cover. Oh my God.
Oh no.
You showed the cover horror cover.
Yeah, Jane is our cover queen.
yeah.
She has a collection that is envious.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness.
Well, you have a lot of books. So,
Yes. Well, I have a lot more to write.
right.
Oh,
Yes.
Rebecca says you were saying how awesome she is as a beta reader
Yes, she is.
and humble, so humble.
Oh, she keeps me in line. She keeps me in line, and she's made me write better. So.
Yeah, Nikki here is my alpha reader. So
Yep.
she's a really great development editor as
Yes.
well.
Now, when you work with alpha and beta readers, do you just send them sections and let them respond, or do you guide them with questions to, focus on specific things?
Yeah, so usually what I do is I actually found out this is the same way that Brandon Sanderson worked recently because someone I know knows him and they're like, this is the same how he works. So I was like, oh, that's great. But he obviously is a lot more successful. So what I do is I'll write I'll write 3 chapters. And then I'll send them to my alpha readers while I'm working on the next ones, and they'll just read them and do the feedback and what have you. And then I'll go back and kind of look at that and do what needs to be done. But then I'll kind of keep notes of things that I'm a little bit unsure of, and then I might ask like specific things. So like in the last book in particular, there's quite a lot of there's quite a big mystery about the magic system in the books. The magic system is quite integral to what is actually going on in the story. So it's got rules and everything like that, all that kind of stuff. But it's kind of quite a mysterious kind of force. So there was the third book was going to do like quite a lot of answers to what's been kind of going on, and I wanted to make sure it was working and kind of it was consistent, and it was not like it was not too lightweight, but not too kind of like just dense. So Nikki in particular, we kind of went back and to it quite a bit, and I kind of over quite a lot of my own notes that don't make it into the books to kind of like, and had my like kind of, which is actually going to work its way into the last book, like my kind of like timeline of like, this is how this happened, and kind of said, does this come through in a more digestible way in the book? So yeah, but generally it's like I kind of like just to see what people kind of respond to and what they don't and what they don't like and what they do like and I kind of like to do it quite early as well in the process, because then if it's something that's like not working, I can fix it right away. And I'm not having to go back and do a lot of stuff throughout a book. And if it's something that is working, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to do more of this when I'm working on it. So it makes the process a little bit faster as well. So for me, like, when I get through it and get them out, because that's the important thing.
And 3 chapters for you was probably quite a bit of on an epic.
Yeah, so I just think now for the 4th book, the first set I sent through was about 25,000 words, and then the second, but that was including the prologue as well, and then the second set is about 16,000 words. So
okay. Yeah, those are decent sized sections.
Yeah, Yeah. So you can get kind of stuck into it. And,
Plenty to work with. Should be, character and world building stuff in there for them to play off of.
Yeah. And then it gives me a little bit of time to kind of like it's like putting the tracks in front of the train.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's motivating too once you get those notes back and you're like, oh, I can do this. This is working.
Yeah, and I like deadlines as well. I like self-imposed deadlines and ones where it's like publishers set deadlines and stuff, and I'm like, okay, well, this has to be done, and otherwise, I'll be like, this is fine.
I just put a stake in the ground for this next book because I didn't have anything lined up, and
you've been floating. How's that been for you?
Sucks. I'm like, I am much more motivated with deadlines. Actually, I should.
Nice.
Oh,
that's gotta make you feel great.
Yeah.
Yes.
I pay her to say these things.
Tell everyone.
I have to say, Katie, I've been having a fantastic time, but I'm not writing. I'm puttering, which is like, no, I need to set those deadlines, because then I'm like, okay, now I have to, really seriously doing it. I mean, I have 23, I think it is, audiobooks that I've got narrators for.
Oh, yeah.
So I've been doing a lot of the audiobook, listening to the narrators and things like that. So I've sort of given myself something else to look at instead of stories.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm going to have 23 new audiobooks by midsummer.
Oh my God.
It's like an army of books that you've got.
I've got like over 70 now.
I'm kind of in that same boat. I haven't set any hard deadlines for myself for personal writing. And, the ghostwriting has taken over because that's what pays the bills. So that obviously takes precedent, and those do have hard deadlines, which, let's face it, I'm really bad with deadlines, but I will make them, even if it's the 11th hour. So a lot of the energy gets pushed there. And I find myself going, I'll get to writing my own stuff later. Or Jane, like you and me, we still have to get a schedule worked out on ours. I need that push.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the year of just waffling. It's the year of the cruises and weddings.
That is true. So, question for you, David, because you write your stuff and you ghostwrite. And I'm in that same position, except I'm not writing my own stuff. I haven't put any books out since, was it
2019?
No, because the PTSD book did come out last year.
Oh, yeah.
I went from writing 3 books a year personally to writing maybe one a year over the last 3 years. But on the other side of it, I'm writing almost a book every 6 weeks for the ghostwriting job.
Yeah.
So how do you balance that and find time for your own writing?
I can absolutely, my max is I can write 4 different books at one time.
Okay.
But I prefer to work on 3 or 2. That's including one of my own. So usually I'm working on one of my own and 2 ghostwriting books, sometimes 3 at the same time. Apart from when I was really into the middle of Beyond Summer Seas, because it was getting a lot bigger than what I thought it was going to be. So I just kind of extended all my deadlines which is the first time I'd done it. But I was like, I need to do this because I'm with an indie press. So I was like, I'll have the 120,000 words by the 10th of December, which I did. But I was like, this is only half of the book. So I was like, you have the 120,000 words. They've all been, what's that by now for readers? Nothing. As your reader knows, I'll work on the next 120 whatever thousand words that's needed. So I kind of just I got extensions and all my ghostwriting stuff and just worked exclusively on that book, which I enjoyed doing actually. I'd like to get to that point, but also I was kind of missing just a little break of just going off and working on something else for half an hour or a day or something. And then basically, that's what I do. I mean, we talked before we came on that I'm autistic, so I have real high hyper focus. usually I have to set alarms on my phone to kind of stop writing. Otherwise, I will literally just keep writing. And if I'm not disturbed for the day, so if my son's out for the day with with his grandparents or whatever, I might just like look out the window and it's daytime, and then look up, and then I see the car coming past, and it's like pitch black, and I'm like, oh, I've not done anything else today. I've not even got up to go to the toilet or anything. I'm just literally just been sat here. So I usually have to kind of set alarms. So which works because like what I'll generally do is I can just work. I have it all kind of set out. So if I just do 20 minutes a day on one of the ghostwriting projects, it means that I'm kind of hitting where I need to do. So if I'm working on 3 of them, that's just an hour a day to do it, and then that gives me like then the overtime that I can work on my own stuff, which is like, might be another hour, or it might be 2 hours, or it might be, if I decide that like, I want to write during the night or something, then I've got a few more hours then as well. So so basically like I write full time. Like I don't work. I write full time, and I look after my son. So that helps. Like if I was working a full-time job as well, then I don't think
I do.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat with you. This is my job. This allows me the ability to take care of my kiddos that are still in school, and be there when they need me, and the flexibility to work through the night. And I do the same thing you do. I'll sit down, I'll start writing, and then I'll look out and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't sleep. But the hyper focus, that's interesting that you're able to jump from one to another. For me, once that hyper focus hits, I can't do anything else but that project. Like it changing to a different project completely derails me.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like it's never really been that much of a problem for me, which is lucky because like it means I can do a few things at once, and as you know, the ghostwriting ones pay quite a lot better than your own books do, unless you get like a big advance or something, like they pay pretty well. But also as well, like there's more there's more kind of thought that goes into my own ones than the ghostwriting ones for a number of reasons. You're coming up with your own stories all by yourself, and there's a bit more kind of care that goes into it, I suppose, because it's like it's your own name that's on it. Whereas with the ghostwriting ones, like a lot of times there's an outline, or there's this and this, and you're basically just fleshing it out, or you're just making sure the pieces fit in a way. Although I have had a couple where it's been like a line that's like, I would like an 80,000 word fantasy book that's a bit like this, and it's like, okay, I'll just make this one up then, I suppose.
So Jonesy in the chat here, she's my work wife. She also ghostwrites. We work for the same group, and we do a lot of those overnights together. Mm-hmm. Started as sprints. We jump online, we set a timer, we do 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of those overnights, usually on the weekends. And she's heard me ranting and raving about some of the projects really needing more thought than I had initially thought would need to go into them.
Yeah, sometimes they can be like that as well. But it's funny because like I get some of them, and some of them are very kind of like open to like collaboration. So you might get the outline through and something. You might be like, this doesn't really make sense, or this might need this or this and this, and they'll be like, okay, yeah, you're the writer, you do.
Oh, I love when they say that. It's when they go, no, this is what I want. And you go, but
it's not going to work.
Like, it's the outline, and you're like, okay. Fine, I will stick to the outline. And
I can't do that yet. I need to learn to divorce myself from that. I'm like, no, and I write up like a 2,000 word document explaining why I'm right and why this needs to change.
Oh my God!
And then I work more than I should. When I should just be like, yep, that's what you want. That's what you get. I haven't learned to divorce myself from that yet.
Yeah, it's liberating. As is, but not. I kind of don't do revisions anymore. So it's kind of like I do it, and it's like, if you want me to do a revision on it, you can pay me more than what you pay me to do it, because revisions take a lot of time. It's like and that's the thing with a lot of ghostwriting stuff. Like it's quite a tight timeline and deadlines for it and everything. So it's enough. It's tight enough to just do the draft of the book. So it's like if you want more, then and most of them are like, no, that's fine. Take it to the editor, and the editor can fix it. I'm like, that's cool. Yep, no bother.
When I was writing for myself, I had a decent writing system. I was putting 3 books, out a year comfortably after editing and revisions. But when I started ghostwriting, that really put me in my paces and like really made me push to write faster because those deadlines are a lot quicker with a lot more words needed in that shorter amount of time. And I'm learning how Jane writes so fast, trying to keep up with these deadlines.
I mean, I'm in a job, 8 to 10 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and then I, eat. and then I sit down to write, and I'm doing marketing and writing. No, thank you, Rebecca. Yeah. And yes, I'm like, my time is limited. So when I choose to focus on it, I can focus on it, and it's a choice. I'm learning that now. Without a deadline, it's harder to force myself to do that. Which this year I knew I was going to be. I had 2 books that I needed to write. One is already done, and it's coming out in October, and the other one was a Christmas one. So those are the 2 books that I have basically committed to write, and anything else is here's a pie.
3 that we're supposed to work on.
And I usually write 6 books a year with a full-time job. With my editor set.
It sounds like so much, but when I think about, like, I'm doing a full-length novel every 6 weeks on average, which is way faster than I used to write. So
it's what, 10 books a year?
And about that.
Yeah. And
when you get into that rhythm as well, like, it's like any other kind of thing. It's easy to kind of get back in and out of it. Like when you're constantly like writing, it's you've got like I really like routines, and like a routine works for me, a writing routine, and doing this, like, and that's why, like, when I went and just worked on the one book, it was fun to kind of put all my time into it, but also it was kind of like, I was like obsessing over it, and I was like, I need this like little break off just to work on something else, just that I can kind of switch my brain off to an extent and just be like, I'll just write this story that I don't particularly like. I don't particularly like any of the stuff in it. I'm not really invested in it. I'm just doing it as a job. And it was nice just to kind of be like, okay, let's go back to the thing that you're just working so hard to get right.
I'll bump between books now as well, because I need, at least I'm bouncing now. And then once I latch on, forget it, that book's done.
I'm too linear, but I've got the whole, like, the hyper focus thing for me. It's just one or the other. I can't switch.
Right.
And I'm still very much a linear writer, even though I was showing you how to hopscotch.
Yes, you taught me how to leapfrog.
But I'm still like, I need to finish this. It's like it's ingrained in me. If I don't finish this, I can't do that. So I'm still working on the balance.
Yeah, I write that way as well, though. I can't. I have to write in a linear way for whatever book I'm working on. Like I can't just skip around. And even though, like, I might have like scenes in mind and bits in mind and stuff, or I'm kind of in between a plotter and a pantser. I'm a planter. I'm looking. Will there be a new map at Eternity Gates? Possibly.
Awesome.
Only as a little kind of something new. It's not going to go to any new places. The last one did. That's why it was so big. I was like, I'm going to take some of the characters to a completely different place, but I was like, oh, but I have to do all the world building, and I have to do all this and do this and do this and do this and do this. So I'm not going to do that in this book, but I might just do. I was thinking of doing like a whole world map for it, for the entire planet.
Oh, that's cool.
But I'm thinking of doing a Kickstarter as well for the series when it's done, and kind of do like a big
Special
kind of like
edition, yeah.
Have you done that before?
No, I haven't. No, so like I've been kind of looking at. I know quite a lot of people have been doing them recently and been doing really like beautiful books, and some of them are just like first in the series, and some of them are like omnibuses. But like mine, I think would have to be 2 because I think it'd be too big to do in one book. But do like a nice collector's set and do like try to get spoilers. It'd be nice to kind of do like new kind of like really kind of like elaborate maps and like artwork.
Those
and
are
stuff
always
like
cool.
Yeah. I'd like to do it.
So when you're writing your worlds, I find like every author kind of has a different thing they focus on. Some people focus on the characters and they hear the characters speaking before they see what they're doing. That's me. Some people see the world and build the world up. And then some people, the plotters, they have the story outlined so they know where they're going. Where do you fall, not just the pants for plotter spectrum, but like what do you focus on first in a story?
Characters first. So yes. Actually, no, it's not characters and themes, I think. So with this one, it was the theme of she's really going for spoilers now. You're really going for it, aren't you? It's called that Eternity's Gate, so can I get an infinite map? That'll be a big one, wouldn't it? So the series is called Empire of Ruin. So the main theme of it was, and this is where the inspiration of Dragon Age came from, was that so in the Dragon Age games, like it was the first thing that, and this came out a little bit before like the big Grimdark explosion. I know there's been Grimdark books, but we can kind of actively go back and say, Thomas Covenant was a Grimdark book, or this was, or what have you. And like even like the Children of Hurin from Tolkien is Grimdarkish as well. But like it came before, like Dragon Age came before like Game of Thrones and around the same time, and Joe Abercrombie and all that kind of stuff. And it was the first fantasy thing that I ever saw that had like a lot of like real world prejudice in it, and kind of like particularly in elven kind of way, where elves were like an underclass, where like humans kind of feared them and were jealous of them, I suppose, because of like they lived for so long and all the other kind of things. And it was really interesting, so that was always kind of stuck with me. So I was like, I'm going to try and do this, and I'm a big like history buff, and I really kind of love the Roman Empire and like learning about them. And I was kind of like, I wonder if I can merge these two things together and then bring it in a little bit with like British imperialism, because I grew up in England, where it's like this island nation, where like it's a tiny island nation that was like, we're gonna just rule the world and just be at war all the time because it's great.
For a while they did, like the map was all colored in.
Yeah. Well, there was these kind of things that were going in with it, and then so then the characters came first, and I was really keen to have this like this mother and daughter, and I'm not like a young like daughter either, like she's in her mid-30s, like she's an adult, so I was kind of really looking in this, and I kind of got that. So it was like, well, what's the thing that's kind of like the starting point was what's the disagreement, what's split them up, what's driven them apart, and then once you come up on what that is, it's like, okay, so that's kind of informing their characters a little bit, and it's like and then just building it from there and saying, what's the challenge, what do they believe in? Okay, they believe in this, so that's this belief system here, and this person believes in this, and what's their biggest challenge, what's going to be the worst thing, and then just kind of building the world from that. So the characters and the themes like always kind of come first, and then because it's kind of like I said earlier on that like the world should like support any different amount of stories that can be told, which I do think is true. But at the start, the world is just built to support this one particular story and these particular characters. And then if you continue developing it, then it can do other things. But at the start, it's like, how can I make my characters suffer the most with this world and create a world to kind of reflect it. And and then I would just then keep on building a world forever unless I was like, I had a deadline. And it's like, you have to actually write the story at some point because, you have a deadline. You're like, okay, I'm still have to write the story. So it becomes quite in depth at a certain point, and then you just kind of have to just pull the trigger. And I'm world building my next kind of project after this one. I have been for the last couple of months. So just doing like a couple of hours every week, just doing a little bit of stuff, creating a few characters and creating a few things. And if you do that like a couple of hours a week, and you don't even have to think about story as much, then it's just like thinking about characters and themes and world and stuff. After a few months, I kind of have like quite a big like Bible, I guess, of how this world works. And then when it comes down to existence is suffering.
Yeah, true.
That's true.
So it's fun. I do enjoy doing it. When I do it that way, and then when it comes to actually like sitting down to like write the first book or the first story, it's like I've got quite a developed kind of world and cast of people. Like in the third book in this series, like there's characters that come into the story that have been mentioned in the first book, were just in passing, but I've always planned to use them, and I knew who they were and what they were going to be in the story for. But so they've been kind of mentioned in passing, like
seeded in there.
Yeah, hundreds of pages before as like a little passing reference. So I do this little thing. I'll see if I can find it. So I think I ripped it off from somewhere, but I can never remember where it was I ripped it off from. But obviously it's stuck there. So like at the start of each chapter, I have like a little kind of like just the light's gone crazy. Crazy.
Right there. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So I have like a little kind of like quote from someone.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Like and it'll be like like a little thing that's like it's just a little bit of kind of a world building kind of thing, really, and but a lot of them are actually from characters that are either already been in the book or will come in the book at some point.
That's cool.
So I've been doing so like so there's characters that pop in the third book that are quite prominent in the third book that were like mentioned in one of these things in the first one.
Nice.
I was like, I hope people remember these when they go up.
That's a creative way to do that. That's cool.
Sometimes it's my friends as well. Sometimes I just like, I just take someone's name, one of my friends' names, and just like do a little like kind of fantasy version of it. And just that's it. It's a little Easter egg for them.
Names and titles. Those are the bane of my existence. I always put in just code names until I figure out the character's name. It's like one of the last things that I think of.
I did that. I do that, and I usually them, but I did it for someone. I did it for someone who was one of my beta readers, and I forgot to change the name, and the character was not a very good character, and I was like, I'm so sorry. I was like, I just do this. That's part of my process. I usually do it, and. That's right. I did a thing recently because I have a reader group, and I did a thing where it's like, if you just invite people into the group and say you've done it, I'll put your name in the last book in some way, which is great because I have a big list of names now that I'm like, yep, I'm just going to use this name.
There we go.
That's how I do it. Yeah, that's how I do it. Yeah.
Brackets. Yeah. Jane was laughing at me for Gray because he was meant to be a morally gray character, so that was his code name.
Right.
And then it just stuck.
Yes.
That's good though. It's when it kind of like it suits it perfectly.
Yeah, it's usually just something to trigger me to remember what the key part of that character was, and I'll come back and put the name in later.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Names are tricky. It's great when you've got a list of them that you can just be like,
yes,
yoink.
Thank you for name generators. I swear.
Yeah.
Right.
I did that for the main male character in the Witch Assassin because I'm like, I've got to find Elven name.
Yeah.
I can say.
Right. Yeah.
You know, for
I love those
for
fancy
fame
names.
royalty, yeah.
Yeah, I love those fancy names that have like loads of apostrophes that are in the middle of them, and it's like, how are you supposed to say this?
Right,
Yeah, those
exactly.
also get code names when I read books like that.
Yeah.
And how do you tell a narrator how to say it? How to
Oh,
say, how to phonically say it? I've had to, tell them, go and give, pronunciations to them recently.
yeah.
That's
because
the
of
best way
my-
to do it. Pronounce
Yeah.
it, record
Yeah.
yourself pronouncing the names
Well,
properly.
actually, I wrote it out the way, it's like my married last name, everybody gets it wrong. It's short and it's French.
Right.
That's why everyone gets it wrong.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's I've had to do that, but I kind of like recorded a lot of some of the things, and I was told I was wrong about a number of them, and I was like, when they told me why I was wrong, I was like, yeah, actually, you know what, you're right, actually, yes, I am pronouncing this completely wrong.
Yep. My worst one is Parmesan. It's Parmesan.
Oh yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, I've said Parmesan all my life. And I will continue saying it.
It's fine.
Just to be obstinate. And on that note.
Zoe did that to me the other night.
Yeah.
She's like, I would like some caramel. And yes, I'm saying caramel and not caramel. Okay, nobody said anything. She's like very specific. I'm going to say it this way.
Yeah, that's two very different things, so that's fine.
Yep.
I think when people start arguing about like pronunciations in your books is when you've really kind of made it. It's like a level of success. It's like someone has bought your book, someone has reviewed it, people are arguing about how you pronounce things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yes, and when you're listening to audio narrators and they get something wrong that just makes you burst out laughing, it's like, oh, that wasn't the word.
Yeah. I was
Crone
listening
and croon
to
are very different.
I was listening to the Wheel of Time audiobooks, which and they're narrated by, I can never remember the names, but they're quite famous audiobook narrators. It's Kramer and Matt Kramer, and I can't remember.
Yeah.
But they just completely change pronunciations of things like halfway through, and they're just whatever feels good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like a part of that fandom is like, until the TV show came out, where it was like definitively said in the TV show, like there's always like, again, like Robert Jordan would like say, this is how it's pronounced, and people are like, no, it isn't. You're wrong, mate. You wrote this thing, but you're wrong. And like people be arguing for years about stuff, and so like it's like the audiobooks were just like, we'll just do all of them. We'll just keep changing it so everyone's happy.
Oh yeah.
That would drive me insane.
Yeah.
Yes. It sometimes does. Like
It's hard work narrating something though. Like I would never do it. It's just
exactly. I went for the easy names. I go for the easily pronounced names, I guess. I don't know.
I thought I did that, but the first narrator on the Chronicles kept calling her Myra. It's like, Mira.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not Myra.
Yeah. But because I think I did that because one of my main characters, the one who's on all the covers, she's called Colleen, but it's with a C. And obviously, because I live in Ireland, that would be a hard C. But then other people call her Celine as well, which I'm like, that's not right.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like it's one of those things like where you're from, like it's kind of really kind of informs like how you pronounce things, I guess. And,
right. Exactly.
That makes sense.
I would never think of like a C at the beginning of the name being like a soft sound, but I guess there is places where it is. So
Well, Celine Dion.
Celine Dion, yeah.
Good example.
Yeah.
There you go.
But that's why, again, if you can record the way you want it said and send that to the narrator,
Mhm.
then there's no confusion whatsoever.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, they
That's
got
what's good about urban fantasy is that it's like they're just people called Nick and
yes.
and Harry and other things like that. It's like this is easy.
Vampire Next Door,
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Right.
George.
Yeah,
Lucifer.
yeah. Everyone knows it. Yeah, it's like,
Yes,
oh, we know
exactly.
this. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is my favorite genre to write in. It's urban fantasy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Someday
I
I'd
like
like to write an epic, but it's going to be a while before I have enough brain space to
Right.
work on something that big.
Yeah.
Well,
See, it's
yeah.
interesting. Like, it's an interesting way of it because, like, there's some things that are like a lot easier than in urban fantasy. I was talking about this on a panel recently about the differences between, like, second world and first world. And someone was actually saying they just wrote an epic fantasy, that was it, and they were like, oh, it's a lot easier to do urban fantasy because, like, if someone's got a gun, you can just say they have a gun, or they go into a bar, you don't have to describe what it is. And I was like, that's true, but also you have to really think of what sets your world apart, and it has to be, it can't just be the real world. Like, you have to think of what this thing is and what's unique about it, and then and then the rules have to be very, very particular as well. Like, and
you have to play by both sets of rules. You have to ground it in the real world and your fantasy world that lives within that real world.
Exactly, yeah. Because, like, if you do have a bar, and like Dresden's bar is a good example of this, like, which is a little bit magical. There has to be a reason why it's different than a real bar, because people will be like, this isn't how this works. And if you have a gun, like, it has to work like a real gun, otherwise people are like, this isn't how a gun works, right? Whereas, like, if you're in your own world that you've made, it's like, well, what's to say the physics aren't different in this world, because they could
Right.
be,
Right. And yeah, the witch assassin doesn't take place on, well, the beginning takes place on Earth, but it's a bunch of different realms. So I had to sort of differentiate a little bit between it. It was like, okay. So at least I had some of the world rules. I didn't have to make those up. So, and I had to be consistent within them, which was very difficult.
Yeah.
But I bent the rules a little bit.
That's half the fun of creating your world and your magic system, is running into like book 3 or 4 down the line, and you're like, damn it, I boxed myself in with that rule. Now I can't break it.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like, why did I write this one throwaway line 4 books ago? That has ruined my life.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, every genre you write in has its quirks, it's things that you have to do. I don't think any are easier or harder than the others. Writing in general takes a lot of work, takes a lot of brain power, takes a lot of creativity.
Yeah. It's that kind of gatekeepery kind of thing where it's like, oh, this genre is easier than this genre, and it's like they're all difficult.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, the only benefit of urban fantasy is you're taking real world and you're adding magic to it, or adding monsters to it, or adding this to it, but the real world.
But you have to make them fit.
Yes, exactly. Like, we've had books take place in New York City. So, we needed to, make sure the mapping was correct and where we were going, and, the subway systems and all of that. Yeah. And then B, layer on top of it, beings that don't,
how they're moving.
We don't know that they truly exist. Put it that way.
So I was very sneaky and I sidestepped this issue. So, like, I wrote a crime novel, like a straight up crime novel that's set in 1940s Santa Monica, which was really difficult. Well, it wasn't difficult, but it was just like a lot of research, because I was like, I've never been to Santa Monica. So I was like, I want to kind of get it right. But also this was 80 years ago. So I was like, trying to find out stuff that, like, there's no records for, or other things, and it was like, quite painstaking to kind of get right. So when I was doing my urban fantasy one, it's set in Oregon, Because I really like the Pacific Northwest, like, and there's a lot of, like, like Twin Peaks and other things like that. Really, like, I really loved, and X-Files and other things like that. That kind of went out there every so often and everything. But then I was like, so will I set it in Portland? And I was like, no, I'm just going to make up my own city that's basically Portland, and it's like about 50 miles away, but it's called something else, and I can just just have the same kind of vibe as the Pacific Northwest and Portland, but I won't have anyone being like, this place doesn't exist, or this isn't what Portland's like. And I'm like, well, it's not Portland, so it's fine.
Well,
the cheat code, I like that.
I've been putting aside doing the World War II romance novel that I'm planning on doing because, and it's based on my grandparents, and I have to do train rides. I have to do train rides with little kids from Hartford to Chicago to the West Coast,
Right.
and all of that. So I remember very little of the West Coast, but I had 5 years when we lived out there when I was really little. But I've got pictures of Oregon and the Oregon coast and stuff like that. And my family's history is from Washington, so.
Right.
And the wagon trains, yes.
Yeah, it's great when that kind of comes through, like, because when you do like read the Dresden books, like, you can tell that Jim Butcher really knows Chicago, like, really well. Like, and even like, I've never been to Chicago, but I know that it feels like a really real place, like,
Yes. I know New York pretty well.
So you'd be able to write New York really well in your books, and it's like, it's one of those things, like, if you're not, you could get away with it for a lot of people, but there will be that people that will be there that be like, look, I live here, and this is nothing like how it actually is, but pull them out of the story, like,
And on the other side, the people who do live there really appreciate it when you write it accurately.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the thing that it's not a problem when you're doing second world fantasy, because it's like no one's ever been there before. It's your world. So
you get to make it all up. You can make up the color of the trees.
As long as you remember them.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Oh, this has been such a great conversation. I can't believe we're actually over time. It's already past an hour, and it just blew by.
Yep.
It has been such a pleasure talking with you tonight, David.
Yeah, thanks very much. I had a great time.
Yeah, I hope it's not too late out there. I know it's like 1 or 2 in the morning.
It's usually, this is my usual prime writing time, so it's okay.
Oh no! Okay, well, we won't take up too
much
more of your time.
I wrote earlier today, so don't.
Well, for everybody who's watching, if you don't already know, the show notes down below have all of David's links. You can find him and his books and social media. And David, thank you so much for hanging out with us. This has been such a fun conversation.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much for having me on.
Yeah, you're welcome back anytime.
And tell Nikki I have a place in Maine, so if she ever has questions about it, she can ask.
There you go.
Sure she will.
I saw that. But
all right, now are we back
for coming
2 weeks from now, or are we?
Actually, hold on. Hang on.
Queen of the schedule over here.
Yes. We don't have any guests next week, but we can do next week because I'm not going to be here on the 29th.
I need to see what's going on next week. All right, we'll figure it out. So either we'll be here next week or the weekend or 2 weeks after.
Or the 6th of May. We'll be
Oh my goodness. How is it already so late in the year? Wasn't it just January?
I know.
All right.
The 29th is when we open up in Maine. So you won't be seeing this background for another 5
I know.
months.
Then you'll be teasing me with the beach.
Yes.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We will see you again soon with more authors to introduce you to and some more fun conversation.
Thanks.
Bye.